Emily Dickinson's 1861 poem, Victory Comes Late, illuminates the human condition and reveals what it's like to need something desperately for survival and not getting it. The poem reads as follows: Victory comes late and is held low to freezing lips, too wrapped with frost to take it. How sweet it would have tasted just a drop. Was God so economical? His table spread too high for us, unless we dine on tiptoe. Crumbs fit for such little mouths, cherries suit robins, the eagle's golden breakfast strangles them. God keeps his oaths to sparrows, who with little love know how to starve. Now, in this metaphor, the being on tiptoe would be mice, and the children would be eating crumbs beneath a table of which the food is too high for them to get. And the idea of a robin's, the exact right size of something for them to eat in their beaks would be a cherry, yet the crumbs are too small for them, and the eagle's breakfast would be grand on any other scale, would, strangle them. So that kind of idea of like freezing to death, like the soldier gets right to the victory, but just almost like you almost get there, but too little, too late, and that kind of concept. Um, in terms of this is just the idea of God using as a metaphor God's oath to sparrows, because God feeds them. Obviously, had a very important effect on how Emily Dickinson thought about things. So if God is supposed to feed sparrows, yet why do sparrows starve? Maybe God isn't doing enough, like the robin almost getting what it needs, but not entirely, because the robin can't eat crumbs. And this is kind of like the too late concept of the Civil War going on. And there was a soldier that lived in Amherst, Massachusetts, where Emily Dickinson lived, that died, named Fraser Stearns. And this made the Civil War personal for Dickinson and her family. And this kind of backdrop of the Civil War being underway when she was writing a lot of these poems, like vast majority of her poems are written during that time of the years of the Civil War, even though she had a longer life outside of that. She doesn't really refer to the Civil War a lot in her poems. And although she does, for example, in the poem, "It Feels Ashamed to Be Alive," she writes, "Are we that?" She writes, "Are we that sufficient worth, that such enormous pearl as life dissolved for us to be in battle's horrid bowl?" A lot of people also were saying that this poem, in terms of like too little, too late, and not getting enough of something in life, is bitterness about her lack of fame and recognition. I don't know, some people on the internet were saying that, but I really don't think that is the case, because she writes in other things talking about how publication is the auction of the mind. She doesn't really even though none of her poems are published during her life, I don't think that she really wanted her stuff to be published, because it kind of preserved her own beauty and her craft, just having it to herself. And she thought that attaching money to your words and art and thought was kind of like commodifying that, and that's something that should be commodified. It's like an auction of the mind. So it's not that she wanted fame or recognition, but it's reasonable to see that, how it can be interpreted that way, because maybe she's just bitter about that. Other poems to relate to this, she has written other poems about this sort of like hunger. She writes, "A little bread, a crust, a crumb, a little trust, a demijohn can keep the soul alive." Once again, that could be recognition for a work that she wants, which I don't think that's the case. Or "Not portly mind, but breathing warm, conscious as old Napoleon the night before the crown." So in this words, she's talking about how too much fame and grandeur can actually be detrimental to you. You should focus on the essentials in terms of not obtaining the impossible. But there's still cruelty, there's still stuff that doesn't make any sense. And I think the Civil War did have an effect on how she saw the world, because it brought that faraway horror to her small town, and it almost seems like meaningless. So a lot of this is just like, trying to learn the realities of life, because in reality, that sweet drop that could save you could be right around the corner, but most of the times it can come too late. And somebody can promise you love and support, but it's not a guarantee that it's gonna continue, that it's gonna be forthcoming, it's gonna stay. So there's no guarantee is what it's saying. I just found this film really interesting.